So our business birthday today, born July 1st, 1936. Happy 84th birthday to Wallace, Wally Amos Jr., American TV personality, entrepreneur, and author. You would know him most as the founder of the Famous Amos chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
And he also has two other brands, the Cookie Kahuna and Aunt Della's Cookies. And he also does an adult reading program called Learn to Read, and also does a children's reading program. In 1962, Amos became the very first black talent agent with the William Morris Agency in New York. And the way he would attract clients, I love this, is he would bake them these chocolate chip cookies. And that's how he was sending out, invites, as you would say, hey, I'm available as an agent. He would send them cookies, and then that certainly was something different than what they were getting from other agents. And he was able to represent Diana Ross and the Supremes, Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye, Helen, Reddy, and they all loved his cookies. And the recipe came from his aunt Della. And I've searched all over the web. She apparently used what they called non-traditional ingredients for the cookies, which is why his cookies were so famous and so good. But he would not reveal what that recipe was, of course. But he said she had some unique ingredients inside the cookies. And so in 1975, it was suggested that he open up a store to sell his cookies. And he opened the first Famous Amos cookie store in Los Angeles, California. He started the business with a $25,000 loan from Marvin Gaye and Helen Reddy. They began to expand, and they were in supermarkets and so forth. He also became a pretty well-known figure culturally. When he appeared as himself on Taxi in an episode called Latka's Cookies in 1981, it kind of launched a whole new career for him, where he was then hired to deliver speeches, and he had written over 10 self-help books and would give a lot of these kind of inspirational speeches. So he not only was the agent, he had this cookie business, and he was now doing a lot of this kind of self-help and speeches around empowerment and entrepreneurship. The company sold $300,000 in cookies the first year, and by 1982, revenue reached $12 million. The company, of course, became very successful with him as kind of the front man, but even getting an entrepreneurial award from Ronald Reagan in '86. But all seemed to fall apart in 1985. The company began to crumble. And he said, I failed to hire good managers, and I failed to hire people who knew how to run a business. And he said, even though my business was thriving and I was the face of the business and kind of the promoter, all the nuts and bolts, and you and I have seen this many times, all the operational stuff that needed to be done to run a business just was not being taken care of. And the company just kept losing money. He ended up having to sell it to another group. He sold the company for about $3 million. And they've subsequently, many years later, sold it, I believe, to Keebler for $61 million. And then he said after he lost the company, he also lost his name, because when they bought the company, they bought the name. He wasn't able to use his name anymore, but he could still use his image. So he started a couple of other companies. One of them was called Uncle No Name. He also did a kind of a low-fat muffin company. And when Keebler did purchase Famous Amos back, they hired him back on as the face of the brand. And so then he still did work for them and was allowed to use his name again. And he'd done lots of, as I said, lots of TV. I was reading through his list of stuff from television and episodes where he actually played himself. He was on The Jeffersons. He was on Taxi. They did a biography showing him The Office in 2012. Shark Tank. He went on seeking money for a new cookie venture called Cookie Kahuna out of where he lived in Hawaii. And so he's a real success story. He currently lives in South Carolina. He lived in Hawaii up until 2018. He currently lives in South Carolina, and he's working on Aunt Della's Cookies, and he does volunteer work where he does a reading adventure called Springfest every year for kids at the Naval Station in Pearl Harbor, where he celebrates children and does this reading program as well as the adult learning program. So not bad for college or for a high school dropout. He and then put himself self-taught entrepreneur, which you always hear those stories, right? About about the self-made people. So happy birthday, Wally Amos Jr.
Yeah, look what he succeeded in doing without an MBA, right?
Yeah, and what did they used to always say about MBAs? Management by walking around, right?
Around, yeah. Right. Here's a question that I was going to pose earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you, even though that's my MO.
That's okay.
You listed that he had done some self-help books and some business books. The one that would surprise me is, given his client list, you said Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, right? Like some
Helen,
really
Reddy, yeah.
amazing acts. Where's the behind the scenes book? So he's the agent, he had to be at some of those concerts, and he had to have some crazy stories about venues and stuff, right?
You know what, John? That is you know what, you asked the question that I didn't think of, which would be great, because when I saw that, when I researched the business birthday, and I thought, oh, he's Famous Amos. Everybody knows the chocolate chip cookies, but the first thing in his bio was he was the first African American or first black talent agent with William Morris, and represented these great acts. I think he even signed Simon and Garfunkel, I think. So I was reading this, right? Yeah, you're exactly right. The stories must be great. But I don't know. Do you sign I wonder if you have to sign a non-disclosure, and you just can't, an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and you can't talk about it.
I'll tell you this. If you don't sign an NDA, what you do instead is the honor code. You break honor, you share these stories, you are to the curb. So he might not have had any paperwork in place, but part of his appeal might have been the fact that he kept all that stuff. He's a business guy, zipped up, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, happy birthday! Have you tried those cookies?
Which one's, the Kahuna or the
Famous Amos chocolate chips?
Famous Amos. Yeah, years ago it was one of my favorite cookies. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked for them. Is the better way to put it. I haven't looked for them in the store.
I think they have them on airplanes a lot, don't they?
I don't know. The one that we get on, it used to be on Delta, were these biscuits that are big in Europe. I forget the name of them now. Biscoff or something? Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you knew. What a great business birthday, and what a career, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can get those Biscoff cookies, by the way, at the grocery store here. Would you like me to pick you up a pack? I got a big package to send you, between the gators and the cookies.
Or cookies, but there was one day, you know how Costco is, right?
Yeah.
Get it before it's gone. There was one day where they had a thing of Biscoff, and I got it, and it lasted for I don't know how long. And I was cognizant of that last pack. I remember the day I ripped into it. I'm like, and I did rip into it. I was like, there you go. You're up the creek, kid. You don't got your your biscuits anymore.
Kind of like a European graham cracker, isn't it? I mean, it's
exactly,
kind of,
but better. Yeah.
Yeah.